Welcome to the 100% Dad podcast. Interviews with dads with your host, America's Dad, Townsend Russell. Today we've got Ryan at Ryan for Christ on Instagram. He's a great guy, really into his faith, wants to share it with the world. He's world traveled, been all over. Apparently he likes dancing, was not aware of that until recently. Very much into fitness and positivity. And if you're on the video side, I have to apologize. There's no other way to put this. Ryan's a model. I mean, he's an Instagram model. The guy's not ugly. And had I known that prior to recording, I would have done anything. I would have trimmed my beard, put on some clothes that made sense, somehow made myself look presentable. But I digress. It was a travel day. I really didn't care, and I had no idea the competition I was up against. So Ryan's a single dad. He's going to talk a little bit about co-parenting, and we're going to go ahead and let Ryan take it from here.
Yeah, for sure. So Ryan, obviously, I'm 34 actually, and I am a single dad, and that's actually what caught my attention about your page. So, but yeah, I live in Texas. Work. So I manage a team of engineers. I do a few things. Manage a team of engineers. That's one thing I do. I also manage a rental property that I was kind of just talking to you about. That's in Florida. So I rent that out, and then I also do some things through Instagram as well. It takes up quite a bit of my time. So
Okay.
that's my
So
life.
when you say engineers, what type of engineers are we talking about?
So the engineers that I manage, they deal with law enforcement. So, police body cameras, dash cameras, things like that, evidence management software. They work with that all day. So,
Okay,
yeah,
that's fun. And that's what
definitely.
designing, improving those kind of things.
Yeah. Just more like troubleshooting. So if they have any issues with it, then they're there to kind of support them and help them out. So
Okay, how long you been doing that?
about 3 years. Yeah, 3 years now. And before that, I was working in the mortgage industry for about 7 years. So I've done a few different things now, and it's good. I mean, I enjoy it for what it is. More of the leadership aspect of it is what I like, opposed to the actual product. I mean, it is interesting. You see a lot of really interesting things when you're dealing with law enforcement, but
Oh, I bet.
it's
Now,
yeah.
now is that a remote position, or are you guys like physically in the same room as each other?
So it is remote now. We used to be in the office every single day, but it's been probably about 10 months now we've been remote. So it's been nice, kind of, just getting a way to just kind of work from home and different lifestyle for sure.
Yeah, so I'm just curious from a business standpoint, like, is that a trend that's going to continue? Are you guys going to, like, even when things are fine to resume, are you guys just all going to stay remote because everybody's enjoying it more that way and the company can cut down on some overhead, or
Yeah.
is the plan to go back to how it was?
I think I was actually thinking this was only going to last a few months, and here we are at month 10, and all my team's still working from home, and I don't know. I guess it depends on the business function, but for my team at least, yeah, I mean, really, they can do their same job sitting at home too. I mean, there's a question that comes into play. Are they still being as productive? If they're working from home, and I mean, I think generally they are for the most part. So I think it might continue that way. I don't know. We'll have to see. It'll just depend. Is definitely not now. I mean, obviously now COVID's still an issue, but I mean, if it does happen, it probably wouldn't be until probably after summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, how big's the company you work for?
Large. That's a
Okay.
large company.
Okay.
Yeah, large,
So
large
they're
company.
going to play it a lot safer than a smaller company would, I assume.
Yeah, exactly, and that's part of it too. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So how long have you had that condo, that rental
I,
property?
so I got it in, I guess it was like July of last year, and part of that was because of COVID. I was thinking, I travel a lot. I try to go on at least, 4 or 5 international trips a year. That was a goal at least for 2020, and when COVID happened, I made a couple of them before
Yeah.
COVID, and then when that happened, I'm like, man, I'm going crazy. I got to go somewhere. I want to be near a beach. I want to do something. And so I was looking at places in Florida, and I had no idea. I mean, I knew Miami had a pretty good beach, but I didn't really know what to expect. And then I found out
Miami's
about,
crazy.
yeah, found out about Destin though, and started looking into that. And looked at condos out there, and I was thinking, if I could buy one of these, not only would it be a good investment, but I could make money off renting it, and also I can go stay there anytime I want, essentially for free. So I did it, and I don't regret it at all. It's been a good investment. It's increased in value some already. Making some rental income off of it, and I spent a lot of time down there too, so that was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So, real Floridians, we do not consider Miami a part of Florida. They are their own thing down there, and we just let them be them. And,
Yeah.
yeah,
Exile the others.
Miami's a different breed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
It's
hilarious.
I've only been down there once, but I know it's fun. I've had some friends that went to school down there, and a
Yeah.
few of them stayed, a few of them came back and said, it's just not a place you want to raise a family. So,
Really?
obviously, lots of people do.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Huh.
yeah, I have one friend who got shot down there.
Oh, in Miami?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
He, yeah.
I think I've been to Miami. It was one day I left on a cruise that went out of Miami, and so I was down there for a day. And then the one night I was there with my friend, we went to, I don't know, some kind of like a Latin lounge, and I mean, it was okay. It was definitely it reminded me of Dallas, like the
Okay.
scene down there reminded me a lot of Dallas, like uptown Dallas. But it did seem kind of crazy. It was definitely interesting, but I enjoyed it. So I mean, it was cool.
Cool. And what are you doing with Instagram?
So Instagram, yeah, mostly it's sharing my faith. So I've only actually been on Instagram for about a year and a half. So I started with Facebook, and that's kind of what kicked it off. I would just make inspirational, positivity, faith-based posts, and then I started getting a lot of feedback from that. People saying, "Hey, that really helped me a lot. That's, thank you for posting that. I'm going through a lot in my life right now." And so I'm thinking, okay, what I'm doing here is actually helping people, which was what I wanted to do. And so then I was like, Facebook, the platform is limited. You can only have X amount of friends. I think it's like 5,000, right? And so I got to a point. I'm like, okay, I want to take what I'm doing here and make a bigger platform. So I kind of went over to Instagram, and so now if you look at my page, it's kind of a mixture of faith-based post. It's a fitness, and actually it was supposed to be a lot of travel, which kind of got killed by COVID. But
Yeah.
really that's pretty much what my page is about. Yeah, it's just faith, fitness, travel, positivity.
Okay.
We live kind of in a negative world nowadays, so I try to
Yeah.
counter that a little bit.
The more positivity, the better.
Amen. Yep.
All right. You said you're a single dad. So what's the story there? How old? One child, more?
Yep. One daughter. So she is turning 4 next month. That's my only kid. So yeah, she's my world too. So she takes up a lot of my time, and that's a huge part of
So,
what goes on.
how's the custody?
So I have her first, third, fifth weekends,
Okay.
and then every Tuesday right now. So that's kind of switched back and forth quite a bit. And I mean, this is a whole conversation right here is why I was interested in in what you're doing, because it's been a journey for sure over the last 4 years, like co-parenting and trying to work out schedules, and honestly, between you and I mean, that's not the schedule I would prefer. Actually, I wanted her every other week, and we've done that before for a little over a year. But if are you a single dad? I haven't really asked you a whole lot about yourself.
Nope.
Okay, you're
Nope.
not. Okay.
No, but you are the second. Just a few weeks ago, I had a podcast with a guy, and I think he was in the Dallas area too, but he has that first, third, fifth,
Yep.
and he was saying the same thing. He wishes it was every other week. If he had known better,
Yeah.
he would have restructured it for every other, because it would have made more
Yeah.
sense that way.
Yeah, well, I didn't even have and so it's like the standard agreement. They call it standard
Yeah.
agreement, I think, is a terminology. And I'm no judge, but I think what it is if you have a child with someone that you're not married to, I think by default the dad is granted a standard schedule, which is what I have, and the mother is granted, you have primary custody or whatever they want to call it. And
Okay.
um yeah, so it's been interesting the last 4 years trying to co-parent, and trying to come up with a schedule. But I would like to have her more. I think father's role in a child's life is really important, assuming it's a good father figure, right? Not someone who's out partying up every night or something. But so it's been interesting.
Okay. So So what's the story on that? Were you guys married, or just this was just a one time I met you and now we have a kid? What's a or long term
Something in
girlfriend?
something in the middle on that. Yeah, we
Okay.
weren't married. It wasn't like I just met her and she got pregnant right away, but we were dating for maybe a few months.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and so then that happened, and tried to work it out. Things just different personalities definitely wasn't going to work, and so then it just turned into like a co-parenting thing. But yeah,
Okay. Is she in a relationship with someone?
not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm
Okay.
aware of.
Are you?
No, no, I'm not. I
Okay.
have. That's a whole subject in itself. That's definitely been an interesting thing. I've dated one person seriously enough to introduce him to my daughter, and she met my daughter's mom, but she has not dated anybody that was, I guess, serious enough to introduce to me. So
Okay.
and I don't think she's dating anyone right now. I don't know though for sure.
Okay. Were there any attempts to try and force a relationship there because you guys are having a kid together?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Probably about month. I think I said like maybe after a few months of dating is when she got pregnant. So I mean, probably about that same time, there were some things that I had already seen. I mean, you're dating someone, right? You're trying to figure out what they're about and all of that. And about month 4 is when I decided, hey, there's some things I'm seeing that I'm really not really happy with. But then at the same exact time, I found out she was pregnant, so it's kind of like,
Yeah.
okay, well, let me try a little bit harder here. I was about to give up, but let me try a little bit harder. And so I did. And I waited, I think it was until she was maybe a few months away from giving birth when I was just like, this is not going to work. There's no way. I've been trying. It became one of those things where I was just so unhappy trying to stay in that. Like it was just killing me.
Were you guys living together?
No, we were not. No,
Okay.
no, we weren't living in this. Well, I'm questioning because we spent a lot of time in the same place, but we weren't like officially living together, if that
Okay.
makes
So you
sense.
each had a place, but you spent a lot of time together.
Yeah, yeah, something like
Okay.
that. The whole thing was just tough. So I mean, towards the very end of her pregnancy is whenever I just decided, I just it's just not worth it. And the one thing I've heard from a million people is don't get married to someone just because you have a kid with them. And I've heard that my whole life, and that is so true because don't get me wrong, like there's nothing I hate more than knowing that my daughter has a split family. That's not what I wanted. I never expected that to happen. But
It's also
you
not the
know,
end of the world.
yeah, it's not. And as time's gone on, I've just decided, I will be a better father and she will have a better life if we are not together because, her mom will probably be better off, I'll be better off, which means that we'll get along better, hopefully. Opposed to trying to force something and her and I both being unhappy and just, I don't
Yeah.
think that's the way to go.
So are you in a situation where there's mom and a dad and you guys actually have a decent relationship? There's no like contentiousness. There's no fighting and argument because there was no
Yeah.
messy divorce. I mean, I guess, or
Yeah.
is there? Or is
No,
there?
no.
Because
Yeah. There was no messy divorce. Hey, my dog's right here. Sorry. There was no messy divorce. But there was definitely tension, especially in the beginning. Um, I'm gonna choose my words wisely because I don't want to, I don't want to come off as like putting her down or anything. But we had a lot of disagreements in the beginning, and it mostly as it related to time with her. And again, I mean, maybe my expectation is just too high there that I think that a good dad should get like half the time. It's like, hey, it's half my kid, and I'm a good father. Like, let me have half my time.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's too high of an expectation, but I think that was my expectation going in is that, hey, like I want equal say in her life. I want equal amount of time. These were my thoughts
Yeah.
going into it. And what I've learned a lot since that first year, and looking back, I think it's really interesting to see all the other fathers out there because what I found is that most dads just they don't have every other week. Most dads have I'm sorry, separated fathers, right? They have standard schedules. And honestly, a lot of fathers that I know, it's they even get less time than that. They might do like every other weekend and skip the Tuesday or skip the Thursday. And I'm like, I would like to see my daughter more than that, and I'd really like her every other week, but most of our tension though was caused by that. I've always wanted her
Okay.
more time. And
So she
I've
didn't
always
like that you were fighting for more time
right,
with your
right,
daughter. Okay.
right. Yep. So that
So
was
in when you guys first had, I guess were you like there for the birth and like the first few weeks at home and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I was there when she was born, and we actually stayed together for the first week just because I'm like, it's my daughter. I'm not going to not be here when she's a baby. So I'm like, even if we're not together, not getting along, whatever, I'm going to be present at least in the same house
Yeah.
to see her and be with her, do whatever I can do. So we did that, and then after about the first week, we kind of went back to our own places. We lived very close, but um, kind of what prompted the legal part to come into play and to get that whole thing done was like, once she got to be like a few months, it was like, okay, she's a little bit more independent now to where like she's maybe it was like 6 months. I don't know how old she was. It was whenever she started like doing bottles instead of breastfeeding and stuff like
Right.
that. Once we get to that point, I'm thinking like, okay, like I don't like she doesn't really have to be around you all the time. I would like my own time with her. It's like not that no offense to you, but like it's like I'd like to have my own time with my daughter, like without you like floating around. And she didn't like that. And so what kind of happened was I think I essentially said like, hey, well, I want my designated time with her, and I wasn't getting that. So we kind of did the
Okay.
whole court thing, and also too, I just wanted for like financial reasons. There's like child support, right? And so I'm like, I don't want anything hung over my head, where there's like, oh, I'm going to file for 8 years of back child support or something. I didn't want anything like that. So for me,
Oh,
um,
smart.
yeah. I just wanted it all legalized and like, hey, here's your time, here's your time, here's how much you're paying every month. It's all a set deal. There's really no room for argument at that point. So for me, I just felt like it was easier.
Yeah, I would think on her side, she was probably hoping, if you guys spent that much time together and you just continue to raise the children together, maybe the relationship would develop out of it. I could be wrong.
Maybe so. I don't know. I mean, we did. I want to say it was maybe like within the first 6 months of her being born. Like there was like a little bit of talk about that, but it wasn't long before it like quickly came back to reality about like why that wasn't going to work. And then ever since
Okay.
then, it's been strictly co-parenting for really like the last, I don't know, 3.5 years.
Okay. How far apart do you guys live?
She's about 30 minutes from me.
Okay.
Yeah.
What part of Dallas are you?
So I'm actually in Allen. Yeah.
North, south, east, west? That's all I know.
It's north, yeah, north of Dallas.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know Frisco.
Yeah, that's pretty close. It's about like 25 minutes north of Dallas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went up there and we met a couple of the Dude Perfect guys at their headquarters up there in Frisco.
Oh yeah.
And then we were just over there about a week ago. We went back from Houston. What was it? The Wolf Lodge. Is it Great Wolf Lodge?
Yeah,
Over
I
in
saw you. Yeah.
Over in Grapevine.
Yeah. Did you
Uh,
like it?
that place was awesome. Oh, for
Yeah.
kids. If it had been like my wife and I going, I
Yeah.
would have been like, oh man, I have kids at home. Like there's just kids running around in a water park, and like they have this Magic Quest game that's like built into the hotel. That's
Yeah.
super cool.
Oh yeah.
But if it was just like my wife and I on a date, I would have wanted to go across the street to the Gaylord where
Yeah.
everything's quiet and nice,
Yeah.
versus the loud craziness and total fun that is the Great Wolf. But
Yeah.
super family friendly. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for kids, it's awesome. Did you do the water park?
Yeah, we did the water park, and then like inside the hotel they have like half the paintings, like you get a magic wand and like you throw it at the paintings and like they come to life and give you clues, and like there's this whole like built-in game.
Huh.
It was a lot of fun, and
Nice.
had we known that existed, we probably would have stayed longer so we could, because it could be a week-long game. You
Yeah,
just
yeah.
continue to kind of accelerate through the levels.
Yeah, yeah.
So the kids had a blast with that. We had a blast with that.
Nice.
But yeah, and then the water park was great.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I've never actually stayed there, so I can't say I've seen like all the games and whatnot, but I mean I know it is like definitely a kid based.
Yeah, I would say unless there's older siblings, I would say probably 6 or 7 is probably a good age to start going.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
just because anything younger, it's hard to understand that game, and
Yeah.
if you're too small, you don't get to go down half the slides anyway.
It's a good
So,
point. Yeah, that is a good point.
yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah, but it was fun. So I've liked almost everything about Texas. We've only been to, we went to the Dallas Fort Worth area. We've done Waco, Austin,
Mhm.
San Antonio, Houston. and now we're heading into that south Gulf tip, whatever, South Padre Island,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
so I guess I haven't seen the desert part of Texas yet, which I heard
Yeah.
is less exciting.
Like the hill country.
I have no idea.
Yeah. So
It's all the
there's
part that on the map it goes from green to like desert.
Yeah, there's so my family owns a ranch down in the hill country, which is near it's maybe like an hour outside of San Antonio where they live. It's actually near closer to Fredericksburg is what it's called. It's outside of that city, but it's exactly what you're explaining. I mean, the green goes away and you start seeing like cactus and everything's
Mm.
brown and there's all these cattle everywhere and it's people have accents. It's like
Yeah,
what you would expect from Texas.
Wild West. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did Amarillo, which was kind of they had some trees and stuff,
Mhm.
and they had Paladura Canyon, which was really nice.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think it gets more desolate after that. And like you said, the cattle. I see the cattle. I just don't know what the cattle are eating. I don't understand. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing. I guess the sagebrush is everywhere. Maybe they eat that.
Yeah. I'm no expert on that, but I think I'm trying to think about my family's cattle. They would do like these, there's like blocks of salt, I'm pretty sure, that have like a bunch
Mhm.
of vitamins. They'll go up and like lick that. And then they also
Salt
would do,
licks.
I think it was hay. I'm pretty sure they would have like big barrels of hay.
Well, you see, you do that on a normal farm that has like tons of fields and everything. Like you supplement with hay and you do the
Yeah.
salt licks and whatnot.
Yeah.
Um, I just think, man, you'd have to bring in so much. Usually, you bring the hay in for like the winter and
Yeah. Yeah.
to get them through the tough spot. But yeah, I don't know what they're doing out there. We saw a lot of cotton out there too. I didn't realize cotton grew in Texas.
Yeah, every time I go down there, I see a lot of what's the other thing I see? I think it's is it peaches? It might be peaches and then grapes. There's like a big wine. It's like a whole bunch of
Really?
wineries, yeah, down there. I don't know if they grow grapes or I don't know what it is.
I think you can go grapes just about anywhere.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, I didn't seen that. Yeah, I saw a lot of cotton, a lot of cattle. Not
Hmm.
sure what the cattle were eating, and yeah. Anyway, so I like Texas a lot. It's been fun. I actually kind of like everywhere.
Yeah,
It's been fun kind of traveling around
yeah,
because
yeah.
I've never seen all this stuff. All right, but back to you. So, all right, so you said you travel a lot for work earlier.
I have in the past a lot. Yeah, not so much with
Okay.
my job now. Most of the travel I do now is just because I want to travel. I like it, but in the past, yeah, I have actually lived. I lived overseas in the Philippines for a couple years.
Okay.
That was for work. Yeah, I used to. That was when I was in the mortgage industry, so they had outsourced some of their work. And hey, stop! My dog is good. Stop. They outsourced some of their work, and so I moved over there to kind of manage one of their call centers, and that was a cool experience. Did that. And then I also lived in Arizona, in East Texas. Made a lot of trips out to like Nebraska, some other places too for work. But most of the international trips I've been on, other than the Philippines, have been just because I like traveling.
Okay. And how are you guys handling that with custody?
Like if I travel, you mean?
Yeah,
Well,
because
so
I'm
back,
assuming that messes with the schedule.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, if I was when I was in the Philippines, I didn't have my daughter yet, so that wouldn't have worked yeah, back then. But now, um, if I travel, it's usually I'll try to plan it for like no longer than a week. I'll go somewhere for a week. I've done longer than a week too, but whenever that case happens, I'll try to plan it on a week I don't have her. So there's a 7 day period I don't have her anyway, like every couple weeks. When that comes around, plan it on that week. And then
Okay.
sometimes what I'll do is I'll have like that Tuesday filled by just saying like, hey, I'm going on a trip this week, and then I'll be able to do like a 10-day trip. So I can do that too.
Okay. And has mom been willing to work with you on things like um, I, I I would even think with the pandemic, with you offering, I guess, to see the kid more, or give her some breaks, things like that. Is it
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I was willing to, especially with COVID. I mean, I am working from home, but I mean, it is sometimes possible to have her around here for periods of time, as long as I'm not like in a bunch of video meetings that day.
right?
Um, so I did pick up some extra time with her. The only challenge though is that she lives, 35 minutes away or so. So it's just far enough that it's not super convenient to where it's like, hey, I'll get her from 12 to 1, or I'm sorry, like 8 to 1 today. It's kind of like, okay, but for that to happen, you're driving an hour and a half. And it's just not that easy because of the distance, and I work out, my office is out here in Allen. So and her,
Okay.
I think she works from home, but she's, 35 minutes away. So it makes it harder to do like short-term watching.
Right.
Yeah. So that's tough. What I've seen and I hate to see is that there's just so many single dads. I feel like they just don't know what to do. And granted, part of it is just, the type of father someone is too. Because I'm not going to lie, there's probably a lot of fathers that just are not there for their kids, and I get that. There's a lot of those guys too. But what kills me to see is the kind of fathers that want to be there for their kids and they're genuinely good guys trying to be good fathers, but they're not able to. And that's what kills me, and it's,
So what are single dads? I guess what issues are they running into? Where are they struggling? What questions are they having?
I think honestly, if I had to guess, it's probably the same kind of stuff that I went through. Just dads that they're struggling with just not being able to see their kids enough. And another part of it too is, and I know this going through like the legal part, like child support can be pretty expensive sometimes. I mean, it's a big part of your salary, that goes to child support. And there's a lot of guys that, maybe they'll have more than one kid, and it gets tough from that aspect too. So I think a lot of guys just don't know how to navigate that. It's like, okay, you're trying to balance the co-parenting relationship, you're trying to balance the financial aspect of this massive child support payment. You're trying to balance not getting your kid enough, and you're trying to I mean, because it's out of your control, and that's what kills me personally is knowing that I have zero control over seeing my daughter more, and that's what kills me. Because you would just think it's like, hey, it's my daughter. I just want to see her. Just want to do its best, and it's not that easy.
Did you talk to attorneys?
Yeah, I did, especially in the beginning. I did, but the problem is, even if I mean, what it all came down to was it wasn't going to happen. I mean, just because I think if you've been, and I'm no attorney, disclaimer, but I think if you have been married to somebody and then you split up, I think there's a chance that it could be a different kind of custody schedule. But I think for someone like in my situation where you have a kid with someone who you weren't married to, you didn't officially ever live with them, you're pretty much getting standard if you're a guy, and that's that. And there's really not a way around unless the mother just agrees to just switch the schedule, which
Yeah, that's what I was talking to another dad about that of almost setting aside some of the that frustration and hatred towards mom,
yeah,
and almost being her like go-to babysitter and go-to like person that'll watch the kids. And oh, you can't make it to get the kids, yeah, I'll drop everything, go get the kids.
yeah,
So that A, you get some bonus time with them,
yeah,
and B, you can record that and you can use it if there's ever future custody disputes or future any disputes, and you can
yeah,
prove to a judge, look how often I have to help mom out as it already is.
yeah,
um, but more realistically, just the relationship kind of improves in that sense, so
mhm,
that those opportunities, I guess, continue to present themselves. um,
yeah,
that's what I would think. That's what I would think I would do, because you're right. The legal system is, uh, I don't know every state by any means, but I know Florida heavily favors mom. Texas
mhm,
heavily favors mom.
yeah.
Um, and it's almost like the dad's just there for the check in. Oh, he wants to see him. Let's throw some dates his way.
Yeah, that's crazy to me too. And then it's I get it, and I mean, there's bad fathers, there's bad mothers out there, but it's like I get it for the moms that have it tough, because I try to see it from that perspective too, right? I mean, there's a lot of moms that have to deal with fathers that just not only do they not want to be there for their kid, but they also don't even want to provide financially for their kid. So it's like I get it, and I feel for those moms, because there's a lot of guys that even though they've been slapped with a child support payment, like they, maybe they're making money under the table, or they're finding a way to not have to pay up, and so these moms are like, I have this dad or the father of my child, and they're not supporting him. They're not wanting to watch him. They're non-existent, or, they deal with this stuff. But at the same time, like I said, there's the dads that do, and that's just tough for them. That I don't know. So you get both sides, and it's just unfortunate for,
Yeah,
you know,
you just think the side that's actively trying would get treated differently than the side that's not getting, that's
yeah,
not actively trying, that's hiding. Uh,
exactly. Yeah. And unfortunately, there's not it seems like just like a generalization for like the court purpose. It's like, okay, a dad is a dad, and there's no evaluation of, like, hey, like what kind of father is this? And it would just be nice if you could have each individual dad kind of sit down with some kind of a social worker and be like, hey, here's what I'm about. Here's the kind of father I want to be. Let's look at my financial stability. Let's look at my whatever social history you want to look at that I have. You do whatever you need to do to determine what kind of a father I'll be, and if that's appropriate, but that's just not how it goes. I mean, the court just looks like, okay, how much you make, what was your situation? Okay, standard. See you later. Have a nice day.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier good dad versus bad dad. There's almost an argument made that not, obviously an abusive dad and a complete deadbeat's a different story, but even a not great dad, statistically, is almost infinitely better than no dad, because
Yeah.
you really start to dig into the statistics of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And when you take dad out of the house, which has happened over the last 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
poverty skyrockets, crime skyrockets. Those kids are more likely to go to prison. They're more likely to have STDs, more likely to have unexpected or teenage pregnancies.
Mm-hmm.
Their socioeconomic status in life is going to be a lot lower than those who came from a household where dad was present.
Yep.
And so really, I mean, you start looking at that, it had nothing to do with, if dad went to church or how great of a dad he was. It was simply the fact that there was a dad there in the house. And
Yeah.
so there's a strong argument to make that even if you're not the best dad in the world, even if you're just an okay dad,
Mm-hmm.
um, that is so much better than taking dad out of the household altogether.
Yeah.
And you said this earlier as well. A lot of dads just they feel like they have no role. Moms can raise kids. Dad's really just there to, I guess, get squeezed for a check, so they hide because they
Yeah.
want to keep the money, and they feel like they don't have an important role in raising kids. And I think it's a complete or it goes 100% the opposite way.
Yeah.
Like his role in raising the kids is incredibly important. He needs to be involved. He needs
Yeah.
to be, seeing, talking, influencing, molding that child.
Yeah. Well, what else kills me on that topic too is whenever people don't realize the importance. Like, I mean, I can even, I don't want to be biased, right? I'm a father, so naturally I'm gonna think like, oh, let's talk about the father's of importance in a child's life. But if I want to be unbiased, I could sit here and say, okay, let's talk about a mother's role in a child's life, and I could sit here and I could sit here and say, oh, that's not really that important or all these, but it is important. It's really important for a child to have their mother in their life, just as important as to have the father in their life. And I think that's another part too. Is I think sometimes mothers or fathers will sit there and maybe it's out of selfishness or maybe it's out of maybe they just don't like the other parent. So they'll try to rationalize like, oh, they'll be fine. Like they don't like they'll be better off with me, and it becomes about them and not about the kid, and that's a tough thing too, because it's just like you said, a mother has a role and a father has a role, and no doubt if you're missing a mother in your life or a father, not to say that it's a guarantee that you have to suffer these things that you mentioned, but you are probably more likely to suffer those, just like you said, and that's no doubt. Your life will be more challenging because of that situation, and obviously, like I'm hopeful for anybody that they can overcome that, because you always have a choice, but it will be tougher for you because of that situation. And I know a little bit about that because I had a really great mom growing up. But my dad, him and I never really had a relationship. He was around, but we never talked about anything personal. And I would have appreciated that. I really would have liked as a kid to have my dad sit down with me and say, "Hey, you're 16 now. You're going to start dating. Here's what it looks like, and here's why you date. You don't go out and date someone because you think it's the hottest girl in school. You date someone because they're a good person. They have these morals and values." And I never had that, and even whenever I got older, I just never had that father figure in my life to sit me down and say like, "Hey, here's here's how we handle these kind of situations. This is what you do." Never had that, and I look back and I could play the victim card. I could sit here and say, "Oh, I wouldn't have gone through this or that if I would have had a father that was really involved in my life." But I've had plenty of time to think about that. But at the end of the day, it's I'm responsible for my actions, and I'm not going to play the victim card on that. And I realize at the end of the day, we all have to make our choices. And even if maybe I didn't have a good father growing up, but guess what? There's some people that grow up in worse situations. Maybe their parents do drugs, or maybe they have an alcoholic parent, or maybe um, they have no parents at all, or maybe their sibling dies in a car accident, so they have to live. There's all these different situations happen growing up, and I think, you know, even if it's whether it's a lack of parent or any of these other scenarios, you just gotta go with what you've been dealt. And so for me, it was my father not really being around, and I just decided as when I was growing up, I'm going to look at everything that he does that I disagree with, and I'm just not going to do that as a father. When I have a kid, I'm just going to do the opposite, and that's exactly what I do. I'm like, I call even if I don't see my daughter every day, I call her every single day and just say, hey, you know what, I love you. How's your day? My dad would never in a million years call. Like he, growing up, there'd be like 3 months at a time that I wouldn't talk to my dad. So I just try to do the opposite, and I just learn from those mistakes.
Well, certainly, yeah, your circumstances will not dictate your future. But then as a father, on the other side of the card, we want to give our kids the best odds. So the best or the highest chance of success, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So we don't put you in the best position,
Mhm.
which is us being there. But yeah, no, I 100% agree. I'm from, so were your parents divorced?
No, they're still together,
Okay.
which is
So you
crazy.
just had a dad who wasn't super affectionate.
Yeah, well, so basically anytime we would go over to my parents' house, like he was just like never there. And not only that, but he would never call, never reach out. So just, I mean, obviously when we were younger and we lived all in the same house, I guess when I was like 17, before I moved
Mhm.
out, then you're kind of forced to see each other, like whether you want to or not, you're going to see each other. So back then, I guess we saw each other a little bit more. We still didn't have a relationship. It's more like we're just talking because we're in the same house. But after I went off to college and all that, that's kind of what's like, okay, now we're not forced to see each other. Now let's see what will happen with the relationship. And pretty much what I expected happened. We just never talked. I mean, like he
Interesting.
never called, never asked anything, just.
How's his relationship with his dad?
Yeah, and that's where it gets deeper. And honestly, and that's
It
no,
always
you're
does.
you're right on track. Yep. And so he had a very cold relationship with his parents too. I mean, and I've asked him actually just recently. Him and I sat down, we're kind of talking about that, and I guess he just like his parents. I don't think they ever really told him a lot that they loved him. They certainly weren't going up and hugging him or kissing him. And I've obviously my grandparents, right? And I've met them, and they're very cold. They're not affectionate. They're very
It,
just.
it's a completely different generation.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy. So it's like,
Yeah.
and I
No,
told him, like, I almost don't even fault him. I told my dad, I'm like, I just, I don't agree with it, but it's hard to fault. I mean, and I don't know. I almost can't fault him though, because that's what he knows. That's what he grew up with. And he's
yeah.
just doing what he grew up with.
Yeah. I think what's a good way to phrase that? It takes a unique personality to change the family tree like that. To kind of see a pattern and sit there and say, I just don't want that for my kid. I don't
Yeah.
want that for my family. And so I think it takes a very perceptive person to be able to decipher situations like that and say, this is what I like about my dad, and that's what I want to continue, and this is what I don't like. And I'm going to do my best to stop that pattern, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. And I think that's when you get into like and not even just parenting, but just in life in general, someone who wants to have the drive to like self improvement. You know what I mean? Like, and I guess it doesn't surprise me that I did kind of take that path of wanting to be a better father than what I had because, and it's not just parenting, it's anything in life. Like I'm very driven. I'm constantly reflecting on my life, my decisions, thinking, hey, how can I do this better? How can I be a better person in this area or in that area? And parenting's one of them, for me. So for me, it's almost like I expected of myself to be an excellent, not just a good father, like an excellent father.
Yeah.
I won't settle for anything less. And I know what that's going to take to do that. And it's making changes from what I had as a father to what I want to be as a father. So
Did you play sports?
yeah, I played that. I played the sports growing up.
Okay. I was curious if like that was kind of that competitive drive of like wanting to be top tier in the things that you do.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know if it's because of sports, but that definitely is my personality. Like almost anything I do in life, I'm very competitive. Like if I do anything, like I'm gonna be the best at it, and that's just my mentality. Like I don't want to do anything average. Everything I do has to be done really well, and it's helped me a lot in a lot of areas in work, being a dad, all these things. So it really has helped. But it's like it's like constant pressure on yourself. But
Yeah. So did that is that a drive that you were born with, or did you notice like it kind of kicked in at a certain age?
That's a good question. You know, looking back, I think as a kid, I think the only things I can look back on and say, maybe that was part of that as a kid that I just didn't notice it was as a kid, like I always wanted to be great, like that's the best way I can explain it. Just as a kid, I remember myself always being like I want to be really good. Like I want, and not in any specific area, but as a kid, I just had like these dreams, I guess. Like I wanted to do something big. And
Okay.
but other than that, like as a kid, I was never like the best basketball player. I was never the best baseball player, soccer player. I played all sports, but I was never the best at anything that I did. So I think that work ethic really probably started to kick in for me probably around like college time. Like I feel like there's certain things that I see it in high school and before that. There's certain things that I will see that side of me in, but it was almost like what do they call them? Like misused talents. Like for me in high school, I was really into like racing cars. So I put all of that talent into my car. So I
Okay.
would just like after school working on my car, doing everything I could to like make it better, make it faster. So for me, it's like okay, probably not the best use of my time. Well, maybe it is because you're a high schooler at that time, right? But
Yeah.
I look back and so I see that side of me and certain things like that. But as I got older, I think I just got more mature, and so those interests and that drive went into things that were more responsible, like career, being a good father, fitness and health, all these things that started going to the right areas. And that part has really benefited me a lot. So,
Yeah. I've always said my boys like I don't really care if you become the best. I just want you to like try and become the best.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
and it's almost like you never will actually be there. But it's that mentality, it's that drive to constantly try and improve and be better.
yeah,
At the same time, kind of being proud of where you're at and content and happy in life. So it's
yeah,
like this weird mixture of things of try and be better, be happy where you're at, and
yeah,
and be content with the fact that you'll never, more than likely you're not going to become the best, but
yeah.
it's that lifestyle that really drives happiness, I guess.
Yeah, and being content with that's a good point too. Being content with failure is important, I think, because it's like I said, I wanted to be something great when I was growing up. Did I think I was going to be Michael Jordan or something? No, but it. But I mean, I didn't expect that really. But I mean, I was striving to be the best. But I mean, obviously along the way, I made plenty of mistakes, and but I mean, I'm not scared to fail either. It's like I do everything I can to achieve my goals, but if I fail and I don't get where I want to be, then fine. Like at least I can look back and say I did everything I could have done to get there.
Yeah. What college did you go to?
Dallas Baptist. Well,
Okay.
actually, let me go back. So I actually went to Hardin Simmons in Abilene, Texas for a year.
Okay.
And then I started dating someone back in Dallas. I moved back to Dallas and went to DBU for the rest of my school.
Your whole Instagram feed is faith based, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so did you grow up Baptist, or is that something like you just decided in college, or what's the story, the backstory there?
Yeah, so I grew up actually going to a Baptist church. So that was kind of what my parents were doing at the time. I mean, so I mean, as a kid, probably from 3 or 4 till I was 16 or 17, we went to the same church that entire time. So it was like and it was looking back, it was a really small church, but I'm just thankful I was raised in church. I'm happy to have that background but yeah, we raised Baptist, and then once I got off into college it's kind of a different feel. So as a kid, you're going to church because your parents are telling you go to church. If you don't go to church, here's what we're gonna do. So growing up, I was going to church, and it's interesting looking back because I was involved and I knew the concepts, I knew what it was about, but like it's like what was my real motivation for going? Was it because I actually wanted to go to church, or was it because my
They
friends
had
were
to.
at church, or because my parents were making me?
Yeah.
And so reflecting back, that was it. And then as I got into college, I had this time where, I was going through some stuff with like my parents were having some issues and I had more issues with my dad. I think where we started, that's about the time that I had moved out and I realized like the real kind of relationship I had with my dad. And so I was going through some stuff then. And I remember that was a point in my life where I kind of had to find my own faith and just decided, hey, nobody's watching me now. I'm in college. I can do it. I don't have to go to church if I don't want to. And So that was when I had to like find my faith for myself and say, okay, now it's just me and God, and like now I'm gonna go to church because it's important. This is who I want to be as a person, and you have those times in your life where you have to find yourself. And for me, that was right when I got into college. That was whenever I kind of had to step back and say, okay, like who am I? I did all this stuff in high school. Now I'm out on my own. Like, what kind of person am I going to be now? And that was it's really funny looking back, but it was like a defining moment in my life where I said, okay, like even though I've gone to church all the time and really probably didn't go for the right reasons, like I know what that's about and I know it's important to me. So like number one, this is the kind of man I want to be, and then I got into weightlifting, around the same time in college, and I was like, okay, like I want to take care of myself. I want to work hard in the gym. I want to be healthy, and I want to push myself and challenge myself. And I started like defining who I was as a person. And in that same time, to go back to your question, um, I started going to just a normal Christian church at that point, and it kind of went from Baptist church to Christian, and I never really had any tie to Baptist. That's what I went to, but again, it wasn't really my choice either. So when I got on my own, I decided, hey, I'm not really that big into religion. Um, I'm just more like I love God and I believe in the Bible, and I'm not going to sit here and like say, oh, I'm Baptist or I'm Methodist or I'm Catholic or I just want to love God, love people, believe what's in the Bible, and that's what I do. So now I go to a non-denominational Christian church, and I've done that ever since.
Okay, cool. And with the college, did you say you went to a Baptist college or a Methodist college?
Yeah, it was Dallas Baptist. Yeah, so it was a
Okay.
Baptist college, but it wasn't really. I don't know. I don't know the meaning. I don't know how they're.
So was
It
it a normal? It was a normal college then. It wasn't like a seminary or something like that.
No, it was a university. Yeah, but it was like a normal school. They didn't preach anything specific to Baptist. I mean, it would have been just like any Christian school you went to.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess going forward in you, did you say you want to keep traveling? I think you did.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely I do. Yeah.
Okay. So going forward in your travels, is that something you want to do with your kid, or are you just going to try and do it like in between your weeks?
I would like to for sure. When she's old enough to appreciate experiences like that, then
Hmm.
yeah. But I mean, she's still 3 right now. Being that young, I'm trying. I mean, for me, I mean,
Yeah.
also because of COVID right now, there's no way I'm taking her anywhere like that. But even if I did, it's at this point, even aside from her not really being able to appreciate it, I don't think at this age, it would be really tough. Just like I still struggle getting her to brush her teeth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I I
Well,
can't even get her to
that's
wash her
not going to
hands.
stop anytime soon.
Exactly. So it's like if I can't even get her to brush her teeth it's like an argument to brush her teeth. Like there's no way we're flying to Chile. You know what I mean? There's just not going to happen. So when she's old enough, then 110% I want her to go with me on these trips.
Yeah.
But she needs to get a little bit older and she needs to be able to get the basics down and then we can do something like that.
So we're doing that right now with a 4-year-old.
Are
Um,
you really?
not flying abroad, but we're
Yeah.
traveling.
Hmm.
So we have not. How old are kids? 10, 7, and 4.
Hmm.
Uh, and so the 4-year-old's kind of borderline. Certainly wouldn't remember everything if we weren't documenting it. Like,
Yeah.
we have a video camera going quite often.
Yeah.
And we make kind of like home videos, and so we even go back and watch like every campsite, and which I think it's been probably one of the best things we've done because it kind of re-triggers all his memories.
Sure.
So he sits there and watches, and he remembers it all. So it's sinking deeper into his brain.
Yeah.
Um, but he also has older brothers that are keeping him, I guess, engaged in the different tasks and things that we're doing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think it would be a little young uh, if he was any younger than that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I could probably do like a short trip. I mean, I've taken her, 5 hours away, something
Mhm.
like that. But if we're talking going through international airports and,
Yeah, it'd be
and
less fun.
yeah, that's
Well,
that's pushing it.
and nowadays, the second she takes her mask off, they boot you off the plane.
Exactly. Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, and especially because of COVID now too. It's just I couldn't do it right now. But maybe like 5, 6. I mean, we'll have to see. But
yeah, that's something I'd like to do. And there's a guy from where we're from. I know he's done it with his kids, but his kids are a little bit older. So
yeah,
I'll have to talk to him. But I'd be interested in doing some like more international travel, certainly like Europe and Asia, but even Africa, South America.
Yeah.
Um, I just don't know. I also don't want to put the family in a position to where there's any danger or things like that. And I know
Yeah.
like when you go to Africa, you have to do like a series, or I had a friend that went to India, like it's a whole series of shots you have to do, like immunizations.
Yeah.
I think before you're even allowed to go. And I believe it's the same thing with Africa.
Yeah.
Um, but you get into certain parts of Africa, and it's a different world over there. And so
Yeah.
do you really want you know you as a dad who's a protector, going over and being responsible for three kids and a wife, and all of a sudden, crap hits the fan, and what do you do? you
Yeah.
you're not home,
Yeah.
so it's I don't know,
Yeah.
that'd be the things that worry me. But
And that's part of it too. I mean, in a lot of my travels too, I'm not gonna lie. Like I've been in some really sketchy situations where I've ended up places that I'm like, okay, I probably shouldn't be here right now. But which I mean, but again, it's like it's just me. So it's like, okay, at the worst, I'm the only one affected.
sure.
But now when you start adding my daughter into that, I'm like, all right, there's like I would be extremely cautious if she was with me, and so it would just have to be the right trip to the right place. There's a lot of really great countries that are safe too. That I wouldn't really be that worried in, but there's some countries that I would be worried about taking my daughter to. So you just really gotta.
Yeah,
Just
I
gotta
so I wouldn't be worried in Europe too much. Probably most of Asia, I really wouldn't be worried unless we're getting like super dense remote jungle Asia. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, certainly Africa, South America. I just don't know enough. And then you have a language barrier. Like I was talking to a dad, he adopted some kids from Africa, so they went backwoods Africa with the whole family. He's like, you hire these tour guides, but the language barrier, you're just kind of like hoping they knew what you said and knew what you meant, and you're just hoping you're going in the right direction. And
yeah,
they're
yeah,
taking you like on these dirt roads over all these roots and everything, and it's not like there's power, water, or, you know, if he decides just to kick you out right then and there, there's nothing you can do about it. So
yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
well, that doesn't sound super fun, but he lived to tell
yeah.
about it.
Yeah, that's there's one time so when I lived in the Philippines, I don't know if you're familiar, but there's the Philippines is like a bunch of little tiny islands made up into one country, so there's like I forget how many hundreds, there's a lot, but
And, and there's a big American presence there, I think.
there is for sure. But mostly within like the business area of it, like Manila. And I wouldn't say there's that might be a stretch. I wouldn't say there's a lot. I mean, I was okay. I would probably see like one American a day, like just
Oh,
in my normal daily.
yeah, maybe they're more adapted to American culture than there are Americans there.
Yeah, you're right on
Okay.
that's okay. Yeah, so they are very in tune with American culture, and they're big on that. And there's reasons behind. I can't. I'll spare that story though. But what
Okay.
I was getting at though is that there's a lot of remote places though over there. And at one point, I went to some island. It was like I had to take a flight from Manila to a small island, and then from that small island, we took a boat to this other even smaller island, and the entire island was probably like this. It was probably like four times the size of my house. So I mean, you're talking like a really really small island, and I stayed out there for a few days, but I couldn't help but think when I was out there, right? Because it was like an hour boat ride out to this place, and the only way to get there is by boat. So I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, if something happened right now, like you're pretty much SOL if you know you're like, what are you gonna do? If you got bit by a snake, or it was like a venomous snake, or I mean, like, what are you gonna do? I mean, it's like, hey, let me go find someone to take me an hour by boat back to this place, and I have to take another plane. It's just so that was running through my head. And so you talk about traveling with a kid too. That
You just don't know what to do.
exactly.
Where's the nearest hospital? Who can you
Yeah,
trust
yeah.
to help out?
I
Yeah.
don't think there's anything you could do. I mean, like, I'm serious about it. If something happened to me out there, it's like, I mean, there's not. I mean, maybe the basic first aid kit kind of things, but beyond that, I mean, they're not going to have. I don't know. You're out of luck.
No, I get it. That'd be
So,
stressful. So, what were you camping out there?
so there was like it was like a hut, is what it was. It was like so I
Okay.
wasn't in a tent. It was like a hut, and then that was it. You like walk in this little hut, and there's like a hard bed, and you just sleep in there, and that's that.
So, my only comfort in that situation would have been this is a tiny island. There's probably no animal life on it because,
Yeah,
I mean, even if they could reproduce, there's nothing to eat. Like, what's a snake going to eat on that island?
Yeah, that's true.
So
Yeah, you hope for that at least. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I don't think I saw anything out there. And honestly, I guess if I wasn't really that worried. I wasn't really worried about like wildlife of anything. I guess I would have been more worried about like I don't know, like a bad storm coming or something because there's a lot of typhoons out there.
yeah.
You know, and if you were sitting on an island like that, you're done basically if that happens. So I don't know, basically washed away at that point.
Yeah, well, that would not be fun. I'm sure the hut would have held up.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
That's fun. Where else have you been?
I've been to China, Japan, um, Dubai. I made a stop in Korea, Colombia. You're really gonna test my knowledge here. Brazil, Costa Rica, Puerto Rico, Chile. Oh no, I'm sorry, not Chile. Argentina, Mexico,
Okay. That,
Panama. I
that,
just stopped. Yeah,
that was
there's a
that was
lot.
all business travel.
No, those are all. That was all fun. So the
Okay.
Philippines was the only business travel one.
Okay. So when you want to travel internationally, who are you going through? Are you just like booking a flight and heading out there and finding a hotel, or are you like going through like an agency that has like itineraries and
No,
put you on a
I
bus?
usually just book it. Like I'm a very spontaneous person, so I actually hate booking trips out like 6 months out. So what I'll do is, I'll have like a week in mind. So for example, I might say, hey, March 21st or the 28th, I want to go somewhere. And then I'll hop on like Expedia and start just like looking at hotels, look at flights, see like what's cheap, how the flights line up with my schedule, and I'll just book it and head out there. But I do it myself, and I'll just sometimes it's different airlines. I don't have like any kind of a system. Find the
Okay.
best deal and best place to go at the time.
That sounds fun.
Yeah,
And you just go solo, I guess. No
yeah,
friends.
yeah. So I've done a mixture of both. I've gone with friends, and I've gone. A lot of my trips have been solo. So, um, I
I,
like both. Huh?
I wouldn't even know what to do. I've been married for 14 years and had kids for 10 of those. Like I wouldn't know
Yeah.
what to do if I just flew to China by myself. I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Really? See, for me, that's like part of the excitement though, is because when I go somewhere, I don't like to just sit in like a hotel or do tourist things. Like I like to actually experience the culture. So like part of that is meeting people. So I love talking to people, and I'll almost every trip I've been on, I'll end up meeting like local people there. Because I go out and do my normal stuff. Like if I'm in Brazil, for example, I'm going to go to a gym in Brazil. I'm going to go to the park in Brazil. I'm going to go to the mall in Brazil, and I'm like undoubtedly I'm going to end up meeting somebody and make new friends and do stuff. And that's what I love about it though too. So
So are you like an advanced linguist, or do you just find the one person that speaks English over there?
well, fortunately, most of the countries I've been to speak Spanish, and my Spanish is actually pretty decent, so that helps a lot.
Okay.
Brazil was tough because they speak Portuguese, and I had to use a translator in Brazil a lot. So
Okay.
yeah.
What about like China does not speak Spanish.
Oh yeah,
Neither does Japan.
that was done for there. Yeah, yeah, 'cause, yeah. I didn't see in Japan. I couldn't communicate with anybody. Like even to go buy a meal, it was that. No, it wasn't happening. I was like pointing because it
Did
was
you know
nobody.
did you did you know what you were pointing at?
No, half the time, no, I didn't. I was like, well, that looks like it might be good. Let me just, and I couldn't even question what it was half the time. I couldn't even say, like, hey, what's in that? Because they wouldn't know what I was saying. So I was like, well, I'll just take a guess. I'll go with that.
Well, you live to
So
tell it. What were the
yeah,
grocery stores like in China? So I remember seeing like a documentary about them. That's why I asked, and it had all this weird stuff. So I'm just
yeah,
wondering if it's true or that was just like one documentary I saw.
yeah. So I couldn't answer that because I didn't go to a grocery store in China.
What?
Yeah, never went to a grocery store there ever. Yeah,
Just went all restaurants?
but what I could say is I have gone to a lot of grocery stores in other countries, and what I've seen is it is very different than what we have here. I mean, even little things like eggs, like here we refrigerate all of our eggs,
Hmm.
and in all these other countries I've been to, they're not refrigerated. They're just eggs sitting there
So
hot, you know.
so we don't. Well, we had chickens, and so we always just had them on the counter as well because and they last super long when you leave them on the counter.
Oh
It's
yeah,
when you pasteurize and refrigerate them that they have shorter lives.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
but yeah, so that's actually how we ate our eggs for years, just because we had our own chicken coop. So
yeah, yeah. I would actually prefer that honestly. If I had the luxury of having my own fresh eggs, I would probably do the same. But Unfortunately, I'm buying them from the grocery store. So
All right, we've gotten way off topic. All right, single dads. So what other things with single dads? Uh, I guess have you heard from others that they're running into?
you know, I actually have heard more. This is kind of funny to say. I've actually heard more stories from the moms than I have from the actual single. Okay, there is actually one single father that I know who has been through a lot, and it's actually very similar to my situation where it's like him and the mom don't get along. But most of the time, I actually hear about the mom complaining about the dads, and usually it's a situation where kind of what I was talking about, where the dad just never around. He just never. They're not interested in seeing their kid, or they're not providing financially, or they're just making bad decisions.
That's disappointing to hear.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure that I'm not even sure that dad can really be brought around. I'm sure some of them can, but I feel like that's more of an upbringing thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can see that you have a kid and then just willfully ignore and leave them behind, when a
Yeah.
mom's pushing for you to be involved, I mean, what can anybody say to that?
I don't know. I think it almost makes you wonder, is it upbringing, or is it just your own? I don't know. I don't know how. I can't relate because I've never been able to understand that, but it's almost the same concept. What it reminds me of is I hear a lot about like dating stories too, like guys who are going on dates and guys that don't know how to act on a date. Like for me,
Mhm.
I was raised like if you're going on a date, the guy's paying on the date. Like
Right.
that's just the way it is. And if you can't afford it, then you're not going on a date, and that's that. And like the guy's a protector. The guy opens doors. The guy makes sure that the girl is safe. These are all like principles that were instilled in me growing up. But as I got older, it was very interesting to hear that like not all guys see it that way. And I
Yeah.
was hearing a lot of stories about girls like, oh yeah, I went on this date with this guy and he asked if I wanted to split the check, and I'm like, I'd probably be embarrassed to do that, to be honest. Like I would never even think to do something like that. But my point is, it might be something similar to that, where like guys are just, they're raised to like that's acceptable. Like you're a dad, so all you need to do is just swing on by once every few weeks and see your kid, and that's your job.
Yeah.
And that's sad, but I don't know.
Yeah. That's one I don't know. I'm not even sure how to address that. I guess I'm not going to have to, because if you're a dad that doesn't want to be involved in your kid's life, you're not going to be on a looking at a dad page for advice.
That's true. That's true. Yeah,
So
you're not gonna be that interested.
probably not going to be my target audience.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. So I guess so from your side, I guess what would you say, a dad that was in your position? Uh, I guess what advice would you give them?
I would say don't try to control what you can't control. And that was my biggest lesson I had to learn, was like the first 2 years of my co-parenting was like hell pretty much, because there's a lot of stuff I didn't share yet, but I mean, it kind of went back from, okay, it's standard schedule. And then it was like, okay, we can do every other week, but it was like at her mercy, so it was like, if anything went wrong, if I disagreed with anything, it was like, oh, what's that? You want to go back to the old schedule?
So
So
you're held hostage a little bit.
yeah. So that went on for the like 2 years basically, and so that it was like hell going through that, and it all goes back to I was trying to control the situation. Like I was trying to get something that I didn't have control to get, so I was at that mercy. But as soon as I said after those couple years, you know what, like I can't control this. All I can do is just be the best dad that I can be, and I can control things I can control. Like I can call my daughter every day. If I can't see her, I can call her 2 times a day every day and tell her I love her. Eventually, she'll be old enough to have her own phone, and I can call her every single day. I can text her all day. So, like, these are things I can control. And as soon as I just kind of decided, like, hey, like I'm just gonna do what I can, then I was like completely at peace. Because before it was almost like I had this mindset that if I don't get my daughter more, like I'm not being a good dad. And if I don't do this, then it was like I felt so bad about it, and I just had to like let go of that and accept it for what it was. And so
Okay, so it wasn't necessarily a power trip; it was more guilt.
Yeah, I had no interest in like a powered. Yeah, I've never been that type. I mean, for me, like I said, even if her mom said, "Hey, do you want her 80% of the time?" I would say no because she needs her mom 50% of the time. Like that's just my mindset. I mean, so it was never about me getting more time or having more legal power. It was always about just like I wanted to be there for her, you know. So it was guilt in the beginning because I felt like she needed me, and there was nothing I could do to be there for her as much as I wanted to. And I mean, so she does have a good mom, despite there's a lot of things I disagree with, but she does have a good mom. So I mean, she's in good hands when she's with her mom. But for me, it was just, like I said, just accepting that I'm doing the best that I can as a dad. I'm doing everything I can do as a dad. I can't look back and say, hey, I should have done this or I could have done that because I couldn't. I mean, I've done everything I can. I've gotten all the time I can get, and that's that.
Are you and mom on the same page as like what kind of values and like how to hand out discipline and things like that? Are you guys like working together on those type of things, or is it kind of like this is how it goes when you're at mom's house and this is how it goes when you're at dad's house? Like, is there
Yeah,
any joint effort to try and I guess create synergies there?
yeah. So we did. We as far as like so we are on the same page about faith, and I'm really really
Oh, that's good.
fortunate to have that. Yeah, definitely. So that's important. As far as like discipline and what's acceptable and not, I think generally her and I agree. I mean, we want to raise a good kid. You know, we both
Okay.
want to be good parents. And so because of that, most of our beliefs and values would still tend to be the same. Like respect, for example. Like I would never tolerate her hitting me or saying something rude or something. I would never tolerate, and neither does her mom. So those things tend to fall in line because we both are I think we're both good parents. So, but there are some little things that we've kind of disagree. I'm trying to think about what some of them were.
Well, that's natural, but if
Um,
like if I mean, it sounds like the big things are going to go in the right direction. You know, you
yeah,
guys are of the same faith.
mm,
Respect is obviously a big thing. That
yeah,
it's going to be enforced.
yeah,
Yeah, no, that's definitely good.
yeah. I'm thankful for
So it
that.
sounds like you guys got a pretty decent working relationship.
It's still I wouldn't say it's great.
Not,
I'd
not
say that
perfect, but better than most from at least what I've heard.
yeah. It's pretty decent, I guess. Good enough.
I mean, there's some horror stories out there, especially when there's starts to get really contentiousness between the parents, and
Yeah,
then the kid almost becomes a pawn in that fighting, and it gets ugly and it goes downhill real fast, and
yeah, yeah,
it's just there's some nasty stuff going on out there, which is again, it's real sad to see. You shouldn't have to be buying your kid's love or trying to convince your kid that the other side is evil and
yeah,
that you're this hero. Um, and that's happening a lot out there.
yeah. And that's sad to see too. I mean, that I can never see myself doing. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of things I dislike about her mom, but I'm like I would never say that to my daughter, because I mean she's gonna be old enough to know this stuff for herself one day. I'm not gonna be the dad. I mean, she's eventually gonna be old enough to then be like, my dad never said anything bad about my mom. Like that's what I want her to say. I want her to look at me and know that. I mean, you
I,
can
and
buy.
I think that's going to matter big time as she gets older.
Oh yeah, because you can try to buy your kid off. You can try to bad talk the other parent, but I mean, eventually, I mean, your kid's going to see who you are. I mean, nobody's going to know you like your kid, and when they
Well,
do,
that stuff works for about 5 minutes, and then long
yeah,
long term it backfires.
yeah,
It backfires so bad, and it's so not good for how this kid turns out as an adult.
yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I just try to be the person that I know that I am. I try to instill good morals and values in her, and like I said, I mean, I could sit here and say a million things about her mom, but I don't want to. I mean, that's her mom. At the end of the day, it's her mom. What is that? I don't want to do that to her. I mean, she'll form her own opinions of her mom, and she'll form her own opinions of me, and that'll be that.
Have you
So
have you both had the conversation of obviously we're going to date other people and um just don't bring every single date around the daughter because it's just
yeah.
not appropriate, or is that something that she's okay with or you're okay with?
So we have talked about it a couple times. in the initial time we talked about it was that, hey, if we're going to have someone around her, we're going to give each other the courtesy of meeting that person. And
Okay.
I'm the only one who has introduced her to anybody. And she did meet my daughter's mom. And beyond that, I think the still agreement's still kind of in place. And I mean,
Okay.
I'm very cautious about who I take my daughter around. I mean, I'd have to be dating someone for, quite a while for that to happen. And if it does, I would give her the respect of meeting that person, just because, I mean, that's her daughter, and I would want to meet the guy that she's dating as well.
Yeah, that's fair.
So,
I think that's a solid agreement.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there needs to be this is my opinion. I haven't had to face it, but a parade of girlfriends or a parade of boyfriends around, where the kid gets kind of attached because they're around for long. They're
Yeah.
around a lot for a short period of time, and then they're kind of ripped away. So they start to form a relationship, then it gets pulled away. I think long term, that's really bad for how kids value relationships.
Yeah, and I will say the one person I was with that I kind of let meet her, my daughter at that time was 2, so she was pretty little, maybe even younger. Maybe she was even like 1.5 or something. She was pretty little, so she actually, I 100%
Probably
guarantee
doesn't even remember.
she
Yeah.
doesn't remember. Yeah, but the girl that I was with did have a son, and he was older, and him and I actually were pretty close. I mean, I saw him almost every single day, and I mean, he loved me like his dad, and so I think I think that was a challenge whenever that ended for him, which I was sad about too. I mean, I was sad for the kid, but I don't know. So that is tough, and I don't want I haven't dated anybody that my daughter's been old enough to actually remember, but the next if I do date someone that seriously to where they're meeting my daughter, then
Yeah, she's
yeah.
3. So what? You got 15 years ahead of you.
Yeah, I know. And I'm sure, yeah, so I'm sure I will, but it's gonna have to be serious. I'm gonna have to know that person's gonna stick around for a while. So
Yeah, that's a good call.
yeah.
I don't have a lot of single dad content out there. I've always
Yeah.
been an advocate of, the complete family. That traditional family is
Yeah.
like the best course of action.
Yeah.
Okay, now we don't have that, so let's deal with these other ones.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so
That's
I
that.
don't.
uh
I just don't have a ton out there because I don't know a lot about it. So that's why I'm starting to have more of these podcasts and with those situations, just so
Yeah.
I can get more familiar with it. I did come from a divorced home, so I know the kids side of it.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously I turned out good. So it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier. Like, those
Yeah.
circumstances don't necessarily determine how it's going to go, but we still want to lay out the best possible path.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Exactly.
so I'm trying to do some more of that single dad content, and there's a lot of dads going through divorce and custody battles, and that seems to be like the biggest. That seems to be like the darkest things, the darkest messages I hear, where like
Yeah.
when dads are getting like real low, like scary low,
Yeah.
they're in the middle of a divorce or a nasty custody battle, and that's when
Yeah.
they're getting some real dark thoughts in their heads.
Oh yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's what I'd really like to combat.
Yeah.
But again, they all feel the same way. The system's against you. You
Yeah.
know, I want to be involved, and the courts are just crapping all over me.
Yeah. Yeah. And it seems like it's like you said. I mean, I look around me and at like how many people now are like raising kids like co-parenting. It is sad to say, but it almost seems like that's like more normal now than people actually being together, and that's sad. I mean, just it's so
I think,
common. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. But that.
there's definitely a lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like and that's another thing too that I liked about what you're doing is that I feel like there's so much support for women and single moms. It's all about, oh, single mom support, but it's like I've never seen anything about single dad support ever. So
Yeah, and well, yeah, tons of mom stuff out there, and all the dad stuff is joke related. And
yeah.
honestly, man, if we could throw out funny videos and dad jokes and kind of crap on dads a little bit like sitcoms do, and
Yeah.
we'd have 10 million followers within like a month because
Yeah.
it's entertaining.
Yeah.
um it's just not the path I want to go. I want to kind of keep it good, uh, encouragement, good wisdom,
Yeah.
solid bite-sized pieces of content that actually add value.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure I've ever seen another page or at least another person out there doing that. So
Yeah.
that's kind of why I'm doing it. So,
Yeah, that's good. No, I like that. That's good.
yeah, and so we'll, it's tough on a platform too, because if I put out something about, a dad dealing with divorce or a single dad, all the married dads come at me like, why are you advocating for this type? Like,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
should be talking about keeping the marriage together. I'm like, well, I do. Just look a little further down the feed.
yeah, yeah,
There's lots of stuff about keep the marriage together.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and then I put too much married stuff out there, and the single dads are coming out saying, "What about us?" So I have to try
yeah,
and find that balance of
yeah.
who
Mix
we're
it up.
talking to.
Yep, mix it up a little bit. I get it.
And with that, we conclude episode 4 of season 2 with Ryan. Ryan, we really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us. And to everyone listening, thank you for tuning in. See you next time.